Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is the 2019 IgniteX Cleantech Accelerator Demo Day, powered by Launch KC. Let's give everybody a big round of applause. Thank you. My name is Drew Solomon, Senior Vice President for the EDC here in Kansas City. Also serve as the chairman for the Launch KC program. We are in our 5th year, have a portfolio of now almost 70 companies that have raised almost over $100 million in follow-on financing. This evening, going to be taking a quick look at 7 of the newest partners with this. We would not be able to do programs like this in Kansas City if it were not for incredibly generous support and civic partnership. So with that, first and foremost, let's give Black & Veatch an incredible round of applause for what they've been able to do. This has been an incredible partnership. There will be many stories. The education, the curriculum has been incredible, and it was an intense competition to get to this point today. That being said, we also have a lot of other folks we want to thank. The Launch KC program over the last 5 years has had incredible sponsors and incredible partners. The City of Kansas City, Missouri, the Missouri Technology Corporation, William T. Kemper Foundation. I'm going to try to do this without this card. And so many others, the Cordish companies, Hush Blackwell, I cheated, there we go. Black & Veatch, so many others. And so big round of applause for all of our donors that have been here over the last 5 years helping grow this. So it's cold. Thank you for an incredible turnout. I actually now am going to kick us off for the evening with an incredible video that we're going to cue, and we're going to roll right into a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much for your partnership and everything. We really do appreciate it. And let's go ahead and cue this video.
The world we want. We want clean energy. Enough food for everyone. We want everyone and everything connected. To eliminate time and distance constraints. We want to fix the climate. To solve world hunger. To travel to new worlds. The world we want ignites here.
We want a clean world.
Clean from chemical contaminations.
A world that has decoupled our food system from fossil fuels.
When we are the planet, we are the environment.
In the world that I want, robots do the work for us and we tell them how to do it efficiently.
Having that positive impact on the environment that we couldn't have before.
It's a big, bold, aspirational goal. It's not a place that we think we will recognize when we get there. It's a journey that we're embarking on.
There's a lot that we need to build.
There is a lot we need to build, and we're building it. At the Black & Veatch IgniteX Cleantech Accelerator.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for joining us here in person in Kansas City, and for those of you joining us on the live stream really around the world. My name is Halim George, and I am the director for this year's IgniteX program. And I want to share a little bit of background on how we arrived here at Demo Day. So earlier this year, we announced that we were looking for the boldest, brightest entrepreneurs and startups in the clean tech space. We think that the combination of startups' novel technology, nimbleness, and Black & Veatch's scale and expertise can move us further, faster towards our mission of building a world of difference through innovation in sustainable infrastructure. So over the last 10 weeks, the companies that you'll meet this evening have been working with our professionals to define project plans, to meet with clients, to visit project sites, to start pilots. So in a lot of ways, tonight is really still the beginning, very much the beginning. And personally, I'm very excited at where things are headed. First off, I want to thank the participating companies. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for challenging some of our conventions. Thank you for giving us some new perspective on challenges that we see. We appreciate all of your input. I want to thank our partners at Launch KC, the EDC, the Downtown Council. These groups are setting up a network of accelerator programs across a number of verticals that's really unique, and I think it's something that our Kansas City community should be proud of. I want to thank our Black & Veatch professionals, some of which you'll meet tonight as well. I want to thank our executive team. I want to thank our IgniteX team. We've declared that we want to be the most innovative and rapidly evolving company in the E&C space. These folks are actually taking steps to get us there, so thank you for that. And finally, thank all of you for attending. Thank you for being here and being curious. And I hope that what you see will leave you captivated and you'll take the next step and engage. As we said in the video, we still have a lot left to build. So be active in your church, your school, your work, however you define community, and take that next step. So please join me in welcoming this cohort with a good round of applause.
At Black & Veatch in our distributor infrastructure group. I've been working a lot in the past few years with utilities who want to make their infrastructure ready for electrification that's coming their way, as well as people who own fleets that want to electrify, either to reduce their costs or to reduce their GHG emissions. Today, the startup I'm presenting, Electriphi, with Mufi, they'll be talking to you a little bit about their tool, will help them build it in a very smart way so we don't overbuild the infrastructure, that we integrate renewable energy into the projects and we use the infrastructure well, and maybe not make the mistakes we made originally when we have bulky infrastructure that doesn't serve our purposes the best it can. So, Mufi, please come up.
Thank you, Jagmeet. Hi, everybody. My name is Mufi Gadiali, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Electriphi. At Electriphi, we are building software solutions that help the large-scale electrification of vehicle fleets. Our team comes with deep domain expertise in EV charging infrastructure and enterprise software. So let me start with a little bit of history. About 100 years ago, electric vehicles and gasoline vehicles were in a very tight race, and then something happened and electric vehicles failed. And there were two reasons why this happened. The first one was that the technology wasn't there. It was very expensive. Batteries were expensive. But the second and more important reason was that the infrastructure, the charging stations, and the energy needed to fuel these vehicles, it never materialized. Now, fast forward to today, and the electrification of vehicles and fleets is almost imminent. The technology costs are coming down, the environmental benefits are very obvious, and the operational ROI is there. However, there's a chance that electrification might fail yet again. And that's because we've got this mismatch between what energy is needed to fuel these vehicles and the infrastructure and the energy capacity to fuel them. Let me give you a quick example. If you take a transit bus, this bus has a battery size of about 400 to 500 kilowatt hours. And this battery has to be filled in about 8 or 9 hours of dwell time in a depot. That's roughly the amount of energy a single family home consumes in an entire month. And if you take that and multiply that by a fleet of a few hundred vehicles, you can imagine the scope of the problem that we are up against. There's also a big shift in how these vehicles are going to be fueled. So fueling electricity is very different than fueling diesel or gasoline. As a fleet manager, now you have to worry about when you charge, how fast you charge, and how much energy goes into these vehicles. And a slight mismatch in all of this can make your costs go upside down. Your energy cost for electricity can be twice or more than of diesel. But we have something going for us. We've got a lot of data and intelligence about how these fleets operate. We've got information on when the fleets come in, when do they leave, and we can use that to our advantage and solve this problem in a really graceful and amazing way. And that's what we are building at Electriphi. We look at all of the data that a fleet generates. When do the vehicles come in? When do they leave? What's the best time to charge? How much energy should go into each vehicle? And then we use all of that to solve two main problems for our customers. The first one, that we make sure that every vehicle is going to be charged and ready before the next day's pull out. And the second, we save costs on energy, but we also save costs on infrastructure. Let me give you a few examples. Our business model is built on a per vehicle fee, and we are deploying across many different customer segments. For a transit bus customer, we are saving them about 70% in energy costs. We are also deploying with one of the largest electric school bus fleets, and we are helping them charge 3 times as more vehicle with the same infrastructure just by using software management. And as we step back and look at the fleet electrification as a whole, it's playing out in 3 different stages. The first stage is when strategic planning happens. The second is when the deployment begins, so infrastructure iron going into the ground. And the third is when the vehicles show up and the site becomes operational. And that's where the synergy with what Black & Veatch does and Electriphi does combines, and we offer a holistic solution to our customers. And as part of IgniteX, I am thrilled to announce that we are launching our first product today. This is a fleet electrification planning tool that's available for all fleet managers. It helps them start with an analysis of their fleet and gives them a comprehensive data in terms of how their vehicles can be charged, what kind of infrastructure they need. This site is live today on bv.managedcharging.com. And as one final thought, as we look to the future, I want to share some thoughts with you. We are on the cusp of the biggest energy transition in history. We've not seen anything like this before. This is a multi-trillion-dollar transition from oil to electrons. If all of transportation, as we know it today, if all of that would electrify, that would mean that we need to double or triple the grid capacity. And this will disrupt the entire value chain, from how energy is produced, to how energy is delivered, to how energy is consumed. And this is creating amazing opportunities. Opportunities for existing companies to reinvent themselves, and for new companies like us to be created. And the thread that ties all of this together is data, intelligence, and an ecosystem of collaboration. And that's what we are excited about, our collaboration and possibilities with Black & Veatch. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tyler Parker. I'm the Business Optimization Manager for Black & Veatch's Global Renewable Energy business line. I get to work with a team of people every day who are dedicated to identifying and implementing new pieces of technology and new processes to make the people on our construction sites and in our office safer, and the work that they do more efficient. I've had the privilege of working with Built Robotics over the last several months to work on that shared passion. So I'd like to introduce Jimmy Kim from Built Robotics, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what they do and the impact that they're going to have on our business.
Thank you, Tyler, and thank you to everyone at Black & Veatch for the opportunity to share a bit about the technology that we're working on today and for allowing us to participate in the IgniteX program. So at Built Robotics, we're developing artificial intelligence guidance systems that enable heavy equipment to operate autonomously. So what that means for us in the near term is we're working on building equipment like this excavator to operate itself to perform earth-moving activities. We're a startup backed by some of the top venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. And now today I'd like to talk about 3 things. First is just a quick overview of the technology itself. Second, some of the value drivers that we're really excited about unlocking. And then third, an outline of our engagement so far with Black & Veatch. But now, before I get into that, I'd like to share a short video. So you'll find that this video is clearly a promotional video, but what you're going to see is actually a live view of our robot in action, filmed on a commercial project with one of our partners. that's what our tech looks like in action. A bit about our actual product. So our approach is to retrofit existing yellow iron with the technology kit that enables the full autonomy. So for us, rather than actually manufacturing the equipment itself, we work with existing models on the market today, which allows us to deliver the value of autonomy more quickly for our partners. And also through this process, we also preserve full manual operations with the equipment itself. And that's important because for us as a company, we believe that in the near term, certain applications are better suited for autonomy than others. And so with this approach, we can use the equipment autonomously in certain use cases where that makes sense, and we can use that same machine manually in other areas as well. And on the tech hardware side, we also work with off-the-shelf components there to assemble our kit. So these are things like an onboard computer and sensors which make up the kit that enables the autonomy. So that means for us, really the focus is on building the software, and that's building the brains of the robot to allow it to operate intelligently on job sites and equipping them with all of the same capabilities and sensory capabilities that a human operator would have as well. And we've made really rapid progress so far over the last few years on developing these robots. So we have signed agreements with some of the top construction firms in the world and have deployed on over a dozen commercial projects so far. And in total, we've operated our robots for over 7,500 hours. And a bit about that retrofit process. So currently for us, that process takes about 2 days for us to take an equipment in its existing manual state into a fully autonomous robot. And that process involves essentially installing this black rack, which houses our tech components, and installing it and wiring it on the machine. Now, and as we build out these robots, we're really excited about some of the key benefits that they can deliver in the construction space. And for us as a company, safety is our top priority. And so for us, one of the benefits that we're most excited about is improved safety on the sites that we work on. And really overall, autonomous operations or working heavy equipment autonomously is a much safer way to work. And the simple reason for that is when you let robots do the work and people just manage them remotely, you take people out of the immediate area where a major safety incident could occur. So right now, when someone's sitting in the cab of the machine, they're in that immediate area of danger where a large volume of dirt is being displaced or a heavy load is being moved. And essentially, our technology takes people out of harm's way. And really, aside from those major incidents, there's a lot of other ways that this technology makes jobs safer as well. So simple things like minimizing the number of times someone has to get in and out of the machine can have a huge effect. So slips and falls right now are the #1 leading cause of injury on job sites. So really, this technology will allow people to avoid many of those accidents. And the other thing to note for us as a technology provider is our focus on architecting our safety system to be as safe as possible. So for us, we've developed a triple layered safety system that ensures the autonomous operations are completely safe at all times. The first layer is a sense and avoid system. And that's a perception capability that we enable our robots with, which allows them to identify pedestrians and other obstacles to know when to stop work. The second layer is what we call a geofence. And now this is a virtual fence that we essentially instruct the robot that tells the robot where it can work and where it can't work. And what we also do is we set up a physical delineation of that geofence in real life for people to see that's where the robot's working and that's where the robot's not working. And finally, our third and final fail-safe is what we call e-stops. And these are wireless buttons that we keep on hand for the remote operators of the machines, so that if after the first 2 layers there's still an incident that might occur, that button will instantly kill the engine of the machine. So beyond safety, there's a few other key value drivers that we're really excited about unlocking. And one of those is extended operations. So right now with manual operations, if the operator is only working 8 hours a day, then obviously the machine is only working 8 hours a day. And what that means is your expensive yellow iron is spending 2/3 of its time sitting idle and depreciating on the side. And so what we do is we untether that link between labor hours and equipment hours. And we're able to actually operate the equipment up to 24/7 in a lot of cases. And we've actually done that on a lot of projects to generate upwards of 3 times typical production. So essentially, this technology is a way to maximize utilization of construction fleets and also dramatically increase the production per machine. Beyond that, this is also a technology that transforms labor productivity as well. Right now, obviously, one person can only operate one machine at a time, but with autonomy, one person can manage multiple machines. So really, people will transition from becoming single equipment operators to fleet and site coordinators. So really, this technology is a tool, and it's a tool that serves as a force multiplier on an operator's capabilities. So really, we see this as a way for operators to transfer the burden of mundane and repetitive tasks to robots, where operators will shift their focus to other skilled, more judgment-related activities. And beyond that, we are seeing effects on fuel costs and maintenance costs as well. Robots can be programmed to be much more precise than human operators, which minimizes excess fuel consumption. And in the long run, robots can also be programmed to be far gentler, which minimizes wear and tear on the equipment over time. And really, all of these factors together can have a really dramatic and transformative impact on project margins. Now, as we develop this technology, we're really excited about partnering with Black & Veatch. And one of the first areas we're going to be working together on is on the renewable side, and in particular, solar farm. And really, IgniteX has been an amazing program for us to drive deep engagement throughout the organization. So we've had regular check-ins with our core Black & Veatch team throughout the last few months, and that's allowed us to be introduced to different people throughout the organization. And actually, through that, we carried out a company-wide roadshow where we met with the leadership across different divisions to identify potential applications for our technology. And really, this program has allowed us to engage in this really deep two-way dialogue between ourselves as a technology company and a leading construction firm in Black & Veatch. So looking ahead, again, we're really excited about building out this partnership together. For us, the immediate sort of next step will be to identify and deploy one of our autonomous robots on a pilot project. From there, we'll look to identify best practices to scale and operationalize these robots across projects. And really, the goal is to ultimately build a large-scale and long-term partnership for the future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamari Bates, and I'm a team lead for one of the IgniteX teams here in Black & Veatch in our corporate growth accelerator. The past couple years, I have been working on developing solutions to augment and to add efficiency to some of the communications network build out that we do for things like 5G. And I'm very happy to introduce Kevin Prendergast from InfraLytiks. He's the president of InfraLytiks, and InfraLytiks is a company that builds customized computer vision and machine learning algorithms that can help increase efficiency and improve automation. And I'm very excited to work with him because as a team, we really believe that bringing this type of technology to the way that we do engineering and construction can really fundamentally change the way that we do things, and it can help us to continue to enable the global connectivity that we all enjoy. And on that note, please give a warm welcome to Kevin Prendergast.
Excited to be here. I'm going to be talking to you about data today, big data. That was an engineering joke. I just tried to put that in there. Sorry about that. You know, data has gone a little crazy in our world. In the last 2 years, more data has been created than in the entire history of mankind. I mean, we're not surprised by that, right? But that's an amazing fact. Over 300 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute right now. Crazy. And we can actually store all that data. That couldn't happen many years ago. However, only about 0.5% of that data gets analyzed. And we've really outpunted our coverage on the data side. We're just not even sure what to do with all of this data. And that's where we come in. InfraLytiks actually started out as our name was InfraDrone. We had drones that we flew, and we analyzed all the data, and we figured out very quickly it's not really about the drones, it's about the data. And so we changed our name to InfraLytiks to emphasize the data side is where the action really is. And so I'm going to talk to you about that today and machine learning and how machine learning really unlocks all the value of that data and makes it work for us in a business setting. Kind of an exciting time, and so we're happy to be here today. I'm going to talk a little bit more about machine learning AI and some specific applications as we go here. So as we said, we're about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and business applications. And we do specialize in automation, data analytics, and then the development of custom software programs. So just a little bit about how we work from a data source perspective. We say we're data agnostic. We work with satellite data, drones, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, vehicles, handheld, and of course also text and financial data. So those are all of our data sources. Data types might include things like HD, 3D, we work with thermography, and we also work with LiDAR. We really specialize in having a visual dashboard that allows our clients to understand and see what's going on with the data, and really take all of that data and put it down in a form that's very usable and specific to a particular project. Our team is primarily engineers. We have computer science engineers, aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers, and so that's our function, and we really love working with engineering companies because we speak the same language. We do have a project currently with Black & Veatch, independent from this, on mobile LiDAR applications and commercialization, and so we're excited about that project and also obviously about the particular project I'm going to share with you in just a moment. And I do want to just mention, because it's important in the machine learning world, a lot of machine learning gets done that's open-ended, and everybody kind of hopes for the best, and nothing ever really gets completed. And so we build our business model around specific projects that are priced in advance with a time frame. We work on milestone delivery, so every milestone we deliver, that's when we get paid, and you know exactly what's happening all the way through the progress. That's important to us because we don't want to be a company that hopes we can deliver something to you. And I think our proudest thing about our company is that we have multiple clients, multiple projects with clients, and referrals from our clients, and we appreciate that from all of them. So just a little bit about machine learning applications. On the far end, on the big scope, if you will, macro view satellite data. The one that you're seeing here happens to be for a wind farm. And it was looking at 100,000 acres. It used to be that they would go in and have to identify bodies of water, trees, buildings, roads, types of buildings, all those kind of things manually. We took that project, and with machine learning now, we take something that was manually over many people in weeks and weeks to basically we have the data completed overnight. And it's more accurate and more consistent for them in their process of laying out wind farms. Down to a micro view of, this is actually showing M&M-sized hail on a metal roof. And that was from drone footage. So, big spans. And that just kind of gives you a feel for the range. When we talk about the IgniteX project, I just want to say this doesn't happen normally. Us being invited in to work with your folks in depth and really understand what the issues are, what the problems are, what the project is, just doesn't happen. We have had a blast getting to know the people here and really being able to understand what's happening, and we think obviously that makes for a much better back-end opportunity to define it well and then deliver a better product for you. So we've heard the vision from the executives at Black & Veatch. That was exciting. We've done workshops with key staff. Again, really lots of insights there. We have a dedicated team and support, and boy, we appreciate them. Jamari, who introduced me a moment ago, and Hailem and Ryan, Rick. Those guys have been tremendous with us. Dave Simmons is one of our leaders in helping us. Taylor and Chris are the guys who actually do the work that really took us through what's going on. So just a tremendous opportunity to work closely. And of course, our engineers love working with your engineers at Black & Veatch, so we appreciate that. So the opportunity here, and the assignment, if you will, was a telecom business opportunity, and it's to automate the process for adding telecom lines and antennas to utility poles. Now, I know that's got you all excited, right? So I'm going to try to show you why that is exciting, and we'll kind of walk through this process a little bit. So first of all, about utility poles, I'm going to tell you more than you ever wanted to know, but there are 180 million utility poles in this country. Of course, not all of them are going to need to have attachments for wires and all those kind of things. And 5G would be an example that's going on right now for adding to these utility poles. This is valuable real estate to these pole owners. Being able to make attachments to them to serve all of us is very important, and they really consider it real estate, and there's a business behind all of that. Black & Veatch gets hired to figure out where those lines can go and figure out the measurements and all those kind of things that have to happen. But the value to us as consumers is We want connectivity. We want connectivity everywhere we go. We want to watch videos. We want to have everything work for us all the time, and we never want the spinning circle of death, which we've all experienced. And of course, the telecom companies are all working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you think about your phone, how many of you believe that the technology is going to continue to improve into the future? I mean, all of us, right? I remember back in the days when we first got cell phones, when everybody, first it was just a few of those great big clunky ones, but once we got real cell phones, the smartphones, and pretty much everybody had them, there was this thought about, well, what's going to happen next? They've set up all these retail centers, but we all have phones now. Now we're at the point of saying, I wonder what iPhone 27 is going to be like, because we don't know at this point what that is, but this will continue to grow and continue to expand, and certainly is a cool opportunity for Black & Veatch to take advantage of that. Not only are there a lot of them, there's lots on them. There's huge demand out there right now for lines on these poles. The Black & Veatch engineers have to deal with a lot of issues and putting them together, and you can see how would you like to have to work with that. And this is a manual process. It's done with software, but it is a very manual process right now, and that's what we're looking to automate. There's also lots to manage, if you will. There are spreadsheets and APIs and field imagery and regulations that come into play, lots of regulations. It's a very complex process. There's a lot of collaboration that has gone on with us, as I mentioned earlier, with some really key folks. And I mentioned the number 4 because we received a file of data that included 4 terabytes of data that was just part of one of the projects where they were looking at 60,000 poles. 60,000 poles. 4 terabytes of data, for those of us not necessarily used to talking about terabytes, is about 2 million books on Kindle, on a Kindle app. It's about 10 times the size of the Kansas City Library. Huge amounts of data that they have to deal with, and that we're happy to now deal with. So we started to say with the team, what if we could do all of these things, reduce the time and improve quality, reduce costs, et cetera, and start to look at how can we use automation to actually make all of that happen. So here's where it really got interesting. Along with the engineering team, we were able to document the process, put together a prototype design, and move from definition work into the definition for doing all the automation and making this a totally automated process. I'm not going to go through this flow chart, but I just want to tell you there's collecting the data, there's analyzing the data, and then there's doing the construction requirements for the people who actually change what's going on those poles. And we have a phased approach with a very detailed plan put together, again, working with the team, which has been very exciting. So ultimately, automation and machine learning improves efficiency. If you will, the efficiency is not necessarily there right now. Obviously, as we automate, that becomes much easier. And they've told us that this just does not exist in the industry. Nobody has this kind of technology to make it work. Obviously, that then makes it more profitable. From a quality and consistency perspective, on a typical job, 5% of the poles, 5% of the construction requirements that go out end up coming back. That delays construction, it costs money for make-ready rework, change orders, all those kinds of things. That was about 3,000 poles on one of the projects. You can see where that becomes an issue. So we think with automation we can improve that quality and consistency. Obviously, we'd love to see market share improve. Interestingly, we just had a call from one of the major, the leading carrier, who called us to say, we heard about you from the PR that's out there among Black & Veatch, and we're interested in hearing more about this, and we're setting up some calls with Black & Veatch to talk to those guys next week. Ultimately, it's about scalability. The engineers trying to do this on their own go crazy, probably trying to scale this up, because you can't teach somebody all the things they have to know and learn to apply this. So the scalability, we think, is probably the most exciting part of this, because there's an opportunity to many-fold increase the ability to do this work in the marketplace, and certainly with 180 million poles out there potentially that need help, there's a lot of opportunity. So as I mentioned earlier, it is kind of exciting to talk about utility poles, and I would just leave you with the thought that if we can do this with utility poles, think about what else we can do with you and your businesses. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Carrie McCoy. I am an engineer in the Federal Environmental Group. I mostly do hazardous waste cleanup for the EPA. I'm here tonight to introduce the Ecospears team, Serge Albino and Ian Dormal. They are a clean tech company that has some exciting new technology that offers a solution for some of our hardest to clean up contaminants. What is so exciting about what they do is that we currently don't have good solutions for some of our most toxic contaminants. The best solutions we have right now include building a tomb for the waste and digging it up and putting it in somebody else's backyard. So we're really excited that Ian and Serge have some better alternatives for us. And with that, I turn it over to them.
Good evening, Black and Veatch. Is my mic on? I forgot to turn it on earlier, so good. So my name is Serge. I'm a co-founder, one of the co-founders for Ecospheres. This is my other co-founder, Ian Dormal. And we are a transformative clean technology company focusing our technology to clean up our environment. Okay? Currently today, we are operating in Hawaii, California, Florida now, and Washington State. But I want you to imagine a world where every human being has access to clean food, clean soil, and clean air, as well as clean water. And unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in today. 94% of our fish tissue sampled by the EPA in 2012 contains cancer-causing contaminations like PCBs, dioxins, as well as persistent organic pollutants. Polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs, were once manufactured in 1929, and they were used in transformer oils, textiles, and paints. And due to industrialization, they're the most widespread contamination there is. According to the UN Environmental Program, about 50% of the PCBs that were manufactured are back now into our environment. PCBs not only threaten our drinking water, but the food supply as well as the air that we breathe. So what's being done today, you may ask? Well, the current methods to remediate PCBs are severely outdated. They're disruptive to communities, destructive to the environment, and yes, they hurt our clients' pocketbooks as well. It's actually cheaper to litigate than to remediate. Think about that for a second. And the current methods is really about the game of three-card Monte. You dig up the contamination here, like our friends in Hawaii, you put them in barges, and you ship them to California and possibly Utah. So you're only removing so much, but yet you're causing a lot of new CO2 being generated into the air. That's a big problem. That's a big problem for today. Neither one of these remediations are truly disruptive, and they are not clean tech. And we understand that this new market is one that's a blue ocean market for us. Current global remediation projects, it's about $123 billion and growing. Here in the US alone, it's about $18.1 billion. And focusing our efforts specifically for Ecospheres within PCBs and dioxin cleanups only, it's $9.1 billion and also growing. So you may ask, how are we different? Well, most of our sustainable solutions for PCB and dioxins, actually all of them, were derived from NASA, right? We actually use green remediation technology to extract the contamination and then destroy them. NASA has entrusted Ecospheres with an exclusive license to this technology. And now we're partnering with Black & Veatch to help us commercialize this into the world. And an exclusive license from NASA is almost unprecedented. And while those guys, Elon and Jeff, are focusing on the red planet, Serge and Ian and Black & Veatch are focusing on the sear blue planet. Thank you. Our clean tech solutions are both proprietary and defensible. And it doesn't really matter where your contamination may lie, soil, sediment, or groundwater. We have the technologies to extract them, contain them, and then destroy them on site. So we're eliminating that transportation cost. No longer will our friends in California have to transport the contaminated soil to mainland US. So some of the technologies that we have, that you see on the left here is the Spears technology that we deploy into sediments. You'll see a sample of it over there. Those are the real things, much smaller. And then if you have the contamination within the soil side of things, we use an auger system where we take the reagent, we mix it with the soil to extract the contamination and process it for destruction. And then guess what? We repurpose the plastic and the reagents to clean up more of the environment so that it's truly sustainable and truly, truly cost effective to our clients. And this Black & Veatch partnership with Ecospears has been so fruitful for us. We were able to achieve approvals from EPA Region 4 to basically start helping a site, an EPA Superfund site in Florida. And just to date, you'll see that some of the track record that we have for a site in Region 4 as well as in Region 10, we're able to extract and then destroy greater than 98% of that contamination. Yep.
So as Serge mentioned, we did receive an exclusive license for NASA-developed technologies. So why would NASA entrust us, right? So we have a few NASA members on our team. Serge, our CEO, is a former NASA aerospace engineer. We also have our principal scientist, co-inventor of several of our technologies, who left NASA actually to join Ecospheres, join a startup. Kind of crazy, right? I myself have 15 years entrepreneur experience in starting my own startups, building, scaling sales organizations. And John Omana left a cushy 30-year government job to also join a startup where he, at his job, got over $600 million secured contracts and land use entitlement contracts. So for us as a startup in less than 2 years, especially in clean tech, where sales cycles are traditionally much longer, we're very proud of our traction to date. We have landed contracts across all these sectors, a lot in commercial sector, Fortune 500 companies, companies that have significant environmental liability spanning into the billions of dollars. We've landed state contracts, Department of Ecology, Hawaii State Department of Health. We've also, as Serge mentioned, working with EPA now, thanks to Black & Veatch and really accelerating those approvals. And we're also working with some international projects that we will be working also with Black & Veatch. And we're also working at the Port of San Diego. We're actually deploying our Spears technology in San Diego Bay to clean up contaminants there as well. So as you see here, all the clients that you see, it's significant traction, and that's great. We get to eliminate those liabilities forever for our clients off their balance sheets. But what's most important for us is that we're eliminating the contamination forever so it doesn't pose a threat to human health any longer. And that's what's most important for Ecospheres, and we're glad that Black & Veatch also shares that mission as well. So this is our revenue model. It's a proven one of success. This is how the industry already operates. Everything starts as a lab scale study at $50,000. We have about 12 of those. Those transition to an on-site pilot demonstration at around $500,000. After the successful pilot, they transition over to projects on the size of $5 million and up. So our next step is to scale. We're so happy with the Black & Veatch partnership because they're going to allow us to do that. We've completed our seed round of $2.3 million. We are entering a Series A. The money that we raise are going to go towards ramping up in sales and capturing projects in key region areas, the Southeast, the Northwest, California, Hawaii, where we already have significant traction. We're also going to continue to develop our technology and transition those pilots to full scale, as well as we've already identified key hires that we're going to bring on to help us with this journey and join us as we call ourselves eco-hackers. So we're going to hire on some more eco-hackers.
So 2020 is going to be a breakout year for Ecospears and also for Black & Veatch in this team and agreement. Not only are we transitioning a lot of our treatability studies in those regions that we talked about. I prefer San Diego and Hawaii, by the way. Good places to work. Rick, I got you. To pilot programs, we're also escalating really fast to go to full scale, because that's where we could really make the biggest impact. Not only that, we're looking to finalize our partnership agreements with Black & Veatch to open up commercial as well as global programs. And together, we could truly make a difference in the world and build some cool stuff. Thank you very much, guys.
name is Mark Shreve, and I work on a team with the Growth Accelerator focusing on computer vision, machine learning, and AI for visual data. I'm here tonight to present to you PJ Piper from Aware Vehicles. He is the president and CEO of Aware Vehicles. And one of the things that they are doing is that they have a non-destructive structural analysis solution. They also, what I've been working with them for the last 10 weeks, and they've been working with Black & Veatch on, is a innovative mobile docking platform for drones. What's really exciting about this is that beyond just a drone being a toy and a tool that flies around, they have automated the process of launch, recovery, data transmission, and charging, and integrated it all into a single mobile platform. And that is something that I am looking forward to seeing how it can be leveraged within the construction and agriculture industries to really be a paradigm shift of how we collect data to make it uniform across all projects and across all sites, and how we can leverage that data to increase our productivity and efficiency on construction sites. So without further ado, PJ Piper.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. That's probably the best reception I've had in quite some time. In any case, how many people may have one of these at home? Anyone? Well, that's a decent amount. How about their kids or their kids' friends? Maybe a nerdy friend? I'll be your nerdy friend, so everybody can raise their hands. So we've got that covered. Essentially, it's typically been, as Mark said, a hobbyist type thing, or possibly something that is used for photography, since it's an eye in the sky. It can give you perspectives you can't possibly get when you're taking photos other places. But I think what you're going to see is a mass proliferation of this technology combined with advanced imaging and artificial intelligence to solve some of the most challenging problems we face today in the world. We're going to talk a little bit about a few of those that we've been working on and how it transitions into Black & Veatch and how we fit into their pipeline as well. There's hundreds of applications that we haven't even identified yet, but are looking forward to doing. So by 2050, they're predicting the world population will be over 9 billion people, and that it will take 3 times as much food as we produce today to feed them. But all those additional people are going to consume more land and more resources than we have today. So in other words, they're saying we have to make 3 times as much food, but with less land, less water, less energy, less fertilizer, less pesticides, less greenhouse gases. Well, how are we possibly going to do that? This is a 10,000-year-old industry, and you're being asked to triple its output in 30 years. This is a grand challenge if there ever was one. Well, fortunately, advanced imaging has proven in the labs that we can now detect with the reflectance off a leaf whether that plant, individual plant, needs more or less water, fertilizer, or pesticides to be as healthy as it can. And if we look at all the plants in a given field, we can actually increase the crop yield by 3 times, bridging the gap exactly what we need. So the challenge now is, okay, well, that's great. How do we do that? Well, if you're a really tall farmer, you might have an advantage, but you're still not going to be able to count every plant and kind of keep track of it. So drones have a very unique ability because as that eye in the sky, they can get that perspective on all of the plants and map out the entire field and provide that. In fact, drones, that eye in the sky has just so many applications, it's amazing. And I'm going to talk about another one before we transition into Black & Veatch. But most people don't know that there are over 50,000 bridges in Kansas and Missouri alone. And that aging infrastructure, the Department of Transportation has estimated that over 9% of those bridges are structurally deficient. But they don't know which ones. That's just an actuarial average, right? So it turns out the methods to test our bridges right now are costly, they're time consuming, and as a result, we only test about a dozen bridges a year. Now, I'm going to guess that those dozen bridges are not the ones that you drive over or under every day on the way to work or to school. So these are big problems. These are really important. With safety so paramount in our lives, it's important to really proactively seek new innovative solutions. And I can tell you that drones combined with artificial intelligence and advanced imaging can solve some of these problems and allow us to do all those bridges within 1 year. And I would sleep better. So, okay, so if we have the solutions, why haven't we done it? Why isn't all this just stuff done? And it turns out there were actually some practical limitations with the drone in particular that were preventing their widespread adoption. And a lot of this kind of makes sense in hindsight because the first users of drones were consumers. And their challenges were, well, I don't really know how to fly these two little joysticks, and I don't know how to do that. So the drone manufacturer said, okay, you know what, we're going to automate that. We're going to make it so it can take off on its own, fly a route on its own. You can just schedule all that in, and it'll come back, it'll take all the pictures, and it'll land somewhere close to you, and at that point, you can pick it up and charge it and pull out the SIM card and do all the rest of that. Well, it turns out in a more industrial application, that's a little bit more challenging, because you need the turnaround to be real time. You need it instantaneous. So what we did to solve this, oh, and by the way, then it has to be sent to an expert who can deduce all the insights from it with artificial intelligence or just their own big brain. And it often has to be sent gigabytes worth of data in areas where they have the worst reception. It's in the middle of Kansas, it's in the middle of a farm field. They don't have reception, you can't send gigabytes worth of data. And that's where Aware's smart docking system comes in. We've used machine vision so that this drone can recognize exactly where to land on the platform. It's not going to land over here or over here. It's going to land exactly here. It's going to plug itself in. It's going to charge itself. It's going to take all the data inside the platform. And then with a high-performance computer, it's going to do all the analysis here. It doesn't have to send it to the cloud. So now, with everything computed here, I can send a 0.5 megabyte file with all the reports and data and images that I want over a one bar scenario. We have been thrilled now to take this technology and to work with Black & Veatch specifically in a real-world utility-scale solar project, where we're identifying things like the poles. Now, on 500 acres, you might have 50,000 poles. This is not an easy thing for people to count at this level. So the eye in the sky really makes a difference, and this automation really makes a difference. But when I think of the startups I've been involved in before, the hardest thing in every startup was finding a large ingrained company to test and ultimately adopt the technology. Black & Veatch has been nothing short of outstanding in this context in terms of their commitment to it and their willingness to disrupt their own business platform with new innovation that will ultimately put them 3 steps ahead of the competition. And that, to us, is really the unicorn in the room. The seven people in the cohorts are trying to become these unicorns. It's way harder to find a big company to do that, and we're so thankful for working with that. We are excited and proud to be the only Kansas City-based company in the IgniteX program. Thank you. Dr. Ziqiang Chen, who's my co-founder in the back, my fantastic co-founder, and I started the company in 2017. We've surrounded ourselves with a whole bunch of different engineers. Obviously, there's a lot of engineers in Kansas City and other professionals who are passionate about bringing this to market. We've gotten funding under multiple government contracts, National Science Foundation, Department of Transportation on ag and infrastructure. And in this, we've then wanted to team with market share leading academic, industrial, and other partners. So in addition to precision ag and infrastructure, where we're focused first, again, there are 100 different applications where an eye in the sky and our ability to seamlessly get data in an hour instead of 3 days makes a big difference. If you're fighting a fire in California, you need the information pretty quick. So we're working with disaster response, we're working with security defense, and we're working with logistics. But once again, I can't thank Black & Veatch for this opportunity and Launch KC for this opportunity, all the other companies in the cohort. We really enjoyed meeting you, and I think there's a lot of opportunities you probably anticipated that we could work together. Please contact us afterwards if you're interested in getting involved with us in any way, whether it be a member of the team, a collaborator, a strategic partner. As an early stage company, it makes all the difference in the world. My contact information there. Dr. Chen, Calvin, and I will be at this table afterwards. Thank you so much. I was told I should end with a joke, but I'm not that funny, and my kids are here, so that would have to be a dad joke. And I promised them earlier I would not drone on. So, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Olson, and I am the co-leader of the Next Gen Agriculture Initiative at Black & Veatch. For those of you who don't know, Next Gen Agriculture at Black & Veatch is really taking our engineering and construction skill sets and looking at the new and novel technologies that will fundamentally reshape the food and agriculture system as we know it. I'm here tonight to introduce our next company, NovoNutrients, a company that we've been working with in the IgniteX program, who has a novel gas fermentation technology and consortia of microorganisms that can convert industrial carbon dioxide emissions into protein. We're super excited about the technology that they've developed, not only because it enhances sustainability by capturing carbon dioxide emissions, but also producing proteins for the animal feed sector in a more sustainable way. So please help me welcome to the stage David Say, CEO of NovoNutrients.
Thank you. So we're entering an era where protein and food production more generally is becoming more and more important as the global population goes to 9 or 10 billion. And perhaps even more importantly, the global poor are increasingly moving into a global middle class. And one of the first things that happens is they change their diets and they become a lot more resource intensive and shift from plants to eating more animals. Within that, probably the most critical area and the one that's crying out for solutions the most is seafood. Wild catch seafood has really plateaued since the late 1980s, and all the growth has come from aquaculture, from the farming of shrimp and fish. And that trend will continue in the relatively near future. Out of every 3 fish, 2 of them will be farmed, and only 1 will be wild. And this is a $200 billion industry today, but it's founded on feed. Like all animals, if you want to grow them, you've got to feed them. And fish have evolved for hundreds of millions of years in the ocean to eat the specific proteins and fats that are found in the ocean. And so aquafeed, which accounts for about half of the economic activity in aquaculture, is a mix of plant and animal ingredients, but specifically catching small, bony, oily fish and grinding them up and pressing them out into ingredient commodities. Fish meal and fish oil. Fish meal is the protein component. And we've seen a decrease in the supply from 7 million tons to less than 5 million tons, and a dramatic increase in the price of this internationally traded commodity by a factor of around 5 just in this period between 2000 and 2015 that we show here. And so our approach to solving this problem and other protein problems is to take those industrial emissions of CO2 that Zach mentioned. Hydrogen is the source of chemical energy for this fermentation process. And this one approach, and in fact the very same equipment, can produce multiple products with different downstream processing. Bulk protein products, as well as specific molecules, or in our neck of the woods, we call those feed additives. And the customer are the manufacturers, the folks who compound multiple types of ingredients into individual products. A fish feed looks a lot like a dry cat food. It's a brown pellet, again, made with some animal ingredients as well as plant ingredients. And of the 40 billion tons a year of greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide equivalent tons, there are 6 sectors that we think are particularly well suited for our technology. And that's within the 20%, which is industrial production and some energy from oil and gas. But to go back a moment, because obviously there's protein in almost every living thing, or maybe all of them. I'm not actually a biochemist, but if we compare how quickly organisms grow and how much protein can economically be concentrated from them, we see some interesting patterns. So the legacy is the anchovies that I was talking about before and other so-called reduction fisheries. Soy is lower in protein, much slower growing in terms of doubling rate of biomass. Insects, which are becoming increasingly hip among startups, are not much better. Microalgae has significant deficiencies, but bacteria can be incredibly fast doubling and have very high levels of protein. At this point, the protein level that we've achieved in our protein meal shown here is 68%, but we haven't really started optimizing the production conditions or the consortium, the sort of ecosystem of microbes that we use. And so we expect to get that well into the 70s, which is extremely high quality when compared against fish meals. It's a complete protein, so it actually has all of the amino acids. It does not have contaminants that sometimes plague the fish meals, including PCBs, which were discussed before, but also mercury. And in terms of the feed additives, we've done proof of concepts with 3 different feed enzymes. It's also an excellent way to make vitamins, ideal proteins, and carotenoids and antioxidants, a very wide range of biochemicals. And the introduction talked about sustainability, but our company is really about cost advantage, that taking these very inexpensive feedstocks, running through a super efficient biomanufacturing process is a way to produce a lot of things more cheaply than the status quo as we get to scale. And this is one of the main concerns of the customers. Those feed mills are unwilling to pay more than they currently do. They're not interested in green premiums. They need the same really high level of nutritional performance. And there's one thing that they can't get from the ocean, which is stable availability in terms of both quantities and prices. And this is something that an industrial process can offer. These are I guess the ultimate consumers, the rainbow trout, eating those red-brown pellets, in this case, constituted with 40% of our protein. This was a video taken during a feeding trial at the Bozeman Fish Technology Center in Montana. And aside from pretty video, we also saw equivalent survival rates, which is the first thing that you look at, as well as growth. So what have we been working on with Black & Veatch over the course of the last 3 months? We've been doing a process engineering design package, or mostly Black & Veatch has been doing, which would look something like this in terms of a skid-mounted or containerized system that we can take from carbon emitter to carbon emitter and show that in real operating conditions with the waste gases that are present on site, we can make good product. Our team is uniquely suited to do this in terms of expertise in molecular biology, microbiology, aquaculture, entrepreneurship, but it's been really well wed to the team from Black & Veatch, which has contributed so much and done most of the hands-on work during this period and really set us up to take something out of the lab and make it real at a scale that's about 20 times larger than what we've had before. So the comment was made at the end of the video, we've got a lot to build, and I want to talk a little bit about what precisely we have to build. And so we're going to look at a few different markets in terms of the margins available, given our cost structure, the size of those markets, and then in terms of the model plant size, how many $250 million plants would it take to achieve a target market share, which in some cases is as little as 1%. So for these high-value additives, you could have about a third of a plant. That's a $2 billion market. In terms of replacing fish meals in aquafeed, 27 plants. Compound feed more broadly, again, for very small inclusion rates, that's 50 plants. And then when you get into actually providing proteins directly to go into foods, into your Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meats, another 35 plants, we think, for our company. In addition to the supporters that we've been able to talk about in the past, today I'm happy to announce that we've been selected by Chevron Technology Ventures to join their Catalyst program, which should lead to piloting in California, which is the home state of our company, and the 12 of us who live and work there. And we're moving on to do our first price round before the end of the year for agreement of terms, closing next year. And we're looking ahead next year to continuing this collaboration, to taking this 1,000 liter out of the engineering zone and putting it into the construction phase, to doing 2 additional 20x scale-ups, not all next year, but in the course of the coming years, and to going and speaking to each of the business units at Black & Veatch and seeing if there's an opportunity to add value to their clients and to generate new and bigger projects together. So I want to thank everyone for hearing a little bit about food from CO2, and especially to thank our new colleagues at Black & Veatch. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Luke Olerking, a project manager here at Black & Veatch in our commercial solar business area, and coach for Extensible Energy and John and his team here. I'd like to introduce you to John Powers, the CEO and founder of Extensible Energy. And what John and his team have built is a demand charge management software for commercial buildings like this one with solar on top. And demand charges, if you don't know about them, and John will certainly tell you a lot about them, are a big deal in this industry. They could be as much as 50% of a business's electricity bill on any given month. So that's a lot. I mean, that's very important to these businesses. But what really excites me about John and the team is that, and their product, is that we could be talking about the benefits of their product with clients right now. And I think if we bring a product like this to the table at this time in this market, it could really give us a competitive edge. So without further ado, let's hear it for John.
Thanks a lot, Luke, and thanks to the whole B&V team. It's been great working with everybody here. I'm John Powers. I am the co-founder and CEO of Extensible Energy, and the world we want is a cleaner world. So we make load flexibility software that makes solar more cost-effective for commercial buildings. I think we all know that the grid is changing from a centralized system of large fossil fuel plants to a decentralized system of clean, renewable, sustainable resources. But I don't think we all recognize just how quickly all this is really happening. The US generates about 2% of its electricity from solar today, and in 10 years, that'll be 20%. That's a $1 trillion opportunity. It's the largest energy infrastructure opportunity of the next decade. I like to think about that as $2 billion a week for 10 years. That's a good number. I like that number. Now, to take advantage of this opportunity, we're not only going to have to change the way we generate electricity, but also the way we use it. We're going to make buildings much smarter, more aware of the energy that they're generating themselves from solar, but also able to control their own energy usage patterns at the same time. What difference will that make? All right, well, you and I pay for our electricity at home by the kilowatt hour, right? But a building like this one, a commercial building, can pay for 20, 30, even 50% of its energy based on the highest 15 minutes of usage during the month. That's called a demand charge, and it's a big part of commercial bills. And solar is great at saving energy, but it is lousy at saving demand. One cloud can ruin your whole month. So remember, demand is based on the biggest mistake your building makes every month. So in order to take care of that, you need a way to adjust the usage to match what the solar is doing. So when we make buildings smarter, that's what we're going to do. And that's what's necessary to unlock that $1 trillion opportunity I just talked about. And that's where we come in. Our IgniteX software enables buildings to learn from the past and predict the future to better control energy usage in the present. That's easy to say, hard to do. We use machine learning to detect the usage patterns of the building and build a hyperlocal solar forecast of what the building output is going to be. And we crank that through an optimizer and send signals to the building to flex all the flexible loads in the building and control demand. So let's talk about flexible loads. I'll take an example like air conditioning. No one really cares when the air conditioners turn on or turn off. They only care that it's comfortable inside. So let's say my forecaster sees clouds coming in a couple of hours. We can pre-cool the building by a couple degrees now, then later let the temperature drift back up. Nobody notices these small changes, but these small changes add up to big impact on demand. So you see demand come down. And that makes solar far more cost-effective in commercial buildings. If this sounds like a battery, well, it is like a battery. It's a virtual battery made from software with costs about 1/10 or 1/20th the cost of a physical battery, with no permitting, no fire suppression, no master electricians, none of the things that are holding batteries back. This is a 10x step change in energy storage that will blow open the market for commercial solar in the next decade. We take those savings and turn them into a very simple business model. We save the customer $1, we keep 33 cents. There's a piece for our partners. Simple. So the team that's doing all this has been around before. Despite my youthful good looks, this is not my first rodeo. I took an earlier startup from founding to funding to successful acquisition, and that was a much smaller opportunity than the one we're talking about today. My co-founder, Ari, and the team here have all the skills and experience necessary to bring success to the market I just talked about. And we're already delivering the solution I just described to customers and delivering real savings today with some of our other solar partners. Savings of anywhere from 20 to 35% in addition to the savings from solar. And when we finish our seed round, we will have many more customer stories to talk about. And we can talk about that seed round in, I think, 2 minutes and 50 seconds over at that table right over there. You can look for either Ari or myself. So when I explained all of this to Ryan Pletka from Black & Veatch just a little while ago in San Francisco, he thought for a minute and he said, would you like to do that with us at 2,000 buildings? And I said, that sounds like a very good start. And pretty soon we were working in the Accelerator with Luke and with the BV team to establish a charter that would help Black & Veatch get comfortable with our results, our process, and our team. We picked a Black & Veatch facility in Livermore, California for a pilot, and we explained to the team there how to install the software and demonstrated how easy it was, but don't take my word for it. Talk to Mick. When we went to the BV site in Livermore, Mick started in on our installation checklist, and we promised a one-day implementation, and he was through before lunch. In fact, while you see him here installing some thermostats, he said, what did we pay the HVAC guy who did this before? I can do all this myself. But we didn't stop there. We went ahead and started negotiation on a reseller agreement that would allow Black & Veatch to sell DemandX to all of its customers. And we didn't stop there either. We integrated with the Black & Veatch commercial solar sales team, our own sales process, and prepared a joint proposal for a prospective customer in South Carolina. And we're certainly not going to stop there. We've been working over the last 10 weeks, and now we have an integrated solution that can be brought to market immediately today, now. And when that happens, when Black & Veatch is able to include DemandX as a standard option in all of its solar deals, When that happens, when an innovator like Extensible Energy and an engineering powerhouse like Black & Veatch come together and have a solution that addresses the biggest energy opportunity of the next decade, the result for all of us will be a cleaner world. Thanks a lot.
Wow, how about that? That's the world that I want right there. Thank you, John. My name is Rick Azer. I work within our Growth Accelerator and busy working with startups like this, our business units, and the larger ecosystem on how to pull all of this together. I know I learned a lot today, and by the way, we're just about done. There's fish food in the back there for anyone who wants to sample things. So a couple of things I learned. There's a whole nother planet full of power that's going to be required to feed all these electric vehicles, and if we do it efficiently, there's lots and lots of opportunity for Black & Veatch and our companies. I learned a couple $1 trillion of solar yet to be installed that's not in place today. I learned a lot about fish and spears and all kinds of great stuff. So I want to say thanks to all our companies that have been working with us these last 10 weeks. It's really been a great experience for us, and understanding how we can collaborate with the startup world and get even further than we might be able to do on our own. And we've heard examples today of how these startups have gotten further than they might have been able to do on their own as well. So this experiment is just really beginning right now. We've seen a lot of companies talk about where are we going from here and how do we grow and manifest from this experience and this relationship. We're eager to see that as well. For the Black & Veatch people here today, I want to leave you with a thought of come talk to these companies. They're going to be in the back here across all these tables. Also think about like what other companies like these we might want to do this with next year or in the future when we do another program like this, because this relationship of accelerating our capabilities is really, really important to our company. And for the rest of the ecosystem that are here today, thanks for coming. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you get a chance to network with the companies that we've brought together. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming.
You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could.